Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to this session of the Map to Cap. I know you guys did this last week with Mike Arco, and you discussed setting big goals and determining what your big why was. So this week we are going to look at 3 of the habits of a successful real estate agent. And I put in there from someone who is not naturally organized, because I think sometimes we listen to people and their successes, and we have the impression that, well, they've got it together. It comes easily for them, and that's why they can do what they can. And I am definitely not an organized person. That part of my brain, I don't think, was not developed. I was the kid in elementary school who never had my homework. My desk was always a mess, and sadly, little Sophie is still alive and well, creating havoc in my desk in my office. So I will be happy to share with you sort of my struggles and what I've done to overcome those. So who am I other than not naturally organized? I'm actually a former teacher. I've been licensed as an agent since March of 2020, but I have been a real estate investor since 2000. So I do have that background that has helped me a lot, understanding the industry and also the real estate market. And that, like I said, has been a huge advantage for me. So it has not been a totally smooth ride up since I got licensed in 2020. It's definitely been an adventure and a journey, and sometimes not as much fun as I wanted it to be. But you know, you kind of work out the kinks and forge ahead, and then they become easier. When I look back at the last 18 months now, 19 months, something like that, there are 3 big things that made a difference in where I am today. One of them is I attended Ignite in the summer of 2020, and I took notes and always told myself, just try to figure out one thing from this person that you can learn and easily apply to what you do. A little bit after that, maybe 2 months later, I was in training, coaching with Eric Akbar. He was, don't really remember what his point was, but he did share that Mike Arco had 10 properties under contract, and I am a competitive person. And also I was like, oh, Mike has 10 under contract. I have to get 10 under contract. And so I sort of created a game, called it the chase. And I just started chasing Mike. And it's been fun, and it has helped me to succeed. And he's fully aware, don't worry, he knows. And the third one was I attended the business planning clinic in November, which I highly recommend you do. I will do it again this year. It helped me to establish big goals. I thought that a big goal for 2021 would be to double the business that I did in 2020, which means I would have done 36 closings in 2021, 3 a month. And when I was in that session, Michael Pasky was talking about setting goals so big that if you fail, you accomplish more than your safe goal. So I'm like, okay, what will be some crazy big goal? And I'm like, 1 a week, 52. So that was my goal. My first year I capped in 11 months. My second year I capped in 40 days. And my year to date, I have 6 million closed and 1.8 million pending. I've already closed 37 and I have 11 pending. So I am on track for that 52, which would be awesome.
How are you doing that much? That's crazy.
I am working hard. I will tell you, I am definitely working hard. I'm working a lot of hours, and I am having a lot of fun. So that's me. That's sort of like my journey. The things that made a difference to me and my career so far. So let's talk about the 3 best money producing habits. Tracking your big goals. Obviously, you have to have goals, but you need to track them. If you don't know where you are, you don't know when you need to adjust. So it's really super important to track your goals. The second one is mastering your calendar. This continues to be difficult for me, but I keep working at it. And when I have, my moments, my false starts, so to speak, I try to get back on track. And then the third one is feeding your pipeline. And we'll go through each of these in some detail. So yeah, tracking your goals, mastering your calendar, and feeding your pipeline. I want to move forward if you guys are still writing. So tracking your goals, what are you tracking? You need to track your volume, which is the sales, what you're selling your properties for, how many units you closed, and also your gross commission income. This is the quote from Mike that I kind of motivated me to have the big goal, was have such big goals so that should you miss, you would still have accomplished more than your same goals.
You
Again,
said
business planning clinic on the 8th of November, highly recommended.
so. You say you track your gross commission.
Yes.
So that's like if
So that's both.
that includes the brokerage split.
Yes. So I do
You
that.
don't just your net.
I do both.
Okay.
But I track my gross first, and then I track my net, because obviously if you're grossing $1 million and at the end of the year you're left with only $10,000, you need to know that. That would be really, really bad. Some people, they don't need to make as much because they've, paid attention to their expenses, whether it's marketing, whether it's their ads, all of the little expenses that take $70 here, $100 there. It's not just what you gross, it's also what you net. But when you look online, when you look at the reports, they will tell you what you gross. Only you know what you net.
Okay. So, because I was saying, okay, the gross is like the total commission is $5,000. Then the split, the percentage that the brokerage gets, the percentage you get. Like I usually track those two things, but you're saying you track the next thing is this house cost me
The photographer.
$1,000 or whatever, or
Right.
$500 to, okay. And then that's your net.
So I do that. Also track how you're going to achieve your goals. So if you want to sell 30 houses next year, how are you going to do that, right? Are you going to be calling for sale by owners? Are you going to be calling for rent by owners? Are you going to be sending out mailers, calling your database, which by the way, is shown to be the least expensive and to be the highest return of your time. Door knocking, Facebook, Instagram, open houses, opportunity time. If you haven't done that, try that. Call Sierra, she can give you some time slots during the week. But how are you going to do that business? You need to track that. And then once you do that, let's say you said mailers, you need to track how many calls did I get from that? Or am I just throwing out $400 every single time I send out a mailer? So it's very important to track the results from your efforts. If you are cold calling and you're not getting any business after months and months, you need to do that. Maybe you need to change your scripts. That's usually what happens. That's what you need to do. But don't keep doing something that doesn't work for you. So that's why that's also important to track. And you cannot be an expert of everything. Like, don't do 15 different things. Pick like the top 3. And then always know your numbers. Like, know where you are. Know what you planned on doing, what your quarterly or monthly goals were, and at the end of the month or at the end of the quarter, know, did I reach those? And you have to understand, in January, February, March, your numbers are going to be a little bit different than during the summer. And that's okay. You have, seasonality in our business, but you want to know, okay, I'm almost at my goal at the end of March or March. You definitely need to know that. And if you're not going to hit your numbers, you need to adjust and say, okay, why am I not hitting these numbers? Obviously, if I were to say, okay, next year I want to sell 500 homes by myself, I'm likely not going to hit those because they're unrealistic. But if I'm saying I want to just do the same business as I did this year and next year, and halfway through the year realize I'm not there, I need to know why. Did I stop making my calls? Are my scripts old? Like, what's going on that I'm not hitting my numbers? And that's why it's always important to know, where do you want to be and where are you? And I'm sure you've seen this before. When you have goals, make sure that they're SMART goals. They need to be specific. Saying I want to be successful, that is not a specific goal. They have to be measurable. I want to sell a lot of houses. It's not measurable. What does that mean to you? Do you want to sell 12 houses, 1 a month? Do you want to sell 3 a month? Like, what does that mean? It needs to be achievable. Like I said, if I were to say I want to sell 500 homes next year by myself, that is not achievable. I don't have enough time in the day to do that. I don't care how good you are. Relevant and time bound. It has to have a deadline. I want to do this by this, not just someday I want to sell a bunch of houses. And remember that a goal without a plan is just a wish.
That's an Erica bar. Maxim.
Yes. All right. So there are a lot of planning and accountability tools that you can get with Keller Williams. You can Google them, ask Danielle. GPS is, you set one goal, you have 3 priorities, and then you have 5 strategies. So you can say, whatever your priorities are, this year, I want to have 2/3 of my business be listings. If you want, I'd be happy to share my slides with you guys. Just, give me your email address at the end, and that way you can have them. But so let's say one of my priorities in growing my business is to have 2/3 listings. What are the 5 strategies I'm going to use to get 2/3 of my business be listings? And so the GPS tool is a Keller Williams tool, and it helps you to plan that out. Same thing with the 411. It's another tool. It's a sheet of paper, and it's just, you have 4 weeks, which equal a month, that lead to a year. If you do these activities 4 weeks in a row, each month, this is where you get for the year. The Daily 10-4 is another productivity tool that you can find online, or again, ask Danielle. But there are 4 activities that you do 10 times each day. Actually, one of those activities you do 10 times just for the week, not for the day. And then there's a way to, pivot is also through Keller Williams. It's how you structure your day for success. How you plan out your day from the morning to throughout your day and the evening, so that you can be successful in hitting your daily targets, your monthly targets, and reaching your overall goals.
You say Daily 10-4, you said that's online, just Google that?
Yeah, I'll have it up here too. I'll go through it in more detail, but yes, they are online. If you look for, KW Daily 10-4, you should be able to find it. And if you can't, just ask somebody in the office, they'll have it for you.
Oh.
So you need to track again, and I'm going back, kind of repeat the same thing sometimes because you hear it differently. But the activities that I personally track on a daily basis is how many phone calls I make. I call a lot of people, do a lot of cold calling. And how many dials do I make? How many follow-up conversations do I have with clients in a day? How many database conversations I have with a day that needs people from my database that I've spoken to, called, texted. And conversation is 2-way. I call them, they responded. If I cold call someone and they answer and I tell them why I'm calling and they hang up on me, that is an answer. that counts. It's not as pleasant as, yes, come over, I'd love you to sell my house, but it's still an answer. I'm not interested. So that counts. And then also how many new contacts did I make? I track how many listing appointments I've scheduled, and I track how many listing appointments I've kept. Because just, you will see, you may schedule 6 of them, and people are going to cancel. So it's important to know for you, what is that percentage? Because if you know that 75% or 25% of the people you schedule with cancel, then you know what your buffer has to be. I track how many showings I go on. I track how many offers I submit, and I track how many offers I have received. But these are just activities. That's it. You can do this all day long and never make any money because you need a client's signature on something. So that's your outcome. You're looking for a signed listing agreement. You're looking for a signed buyer agency agreement. You're looking for an offer that is accepted. That is your outcome. So obviously you're not going to get here if you don't do this. But being really good at this without ever getting to that isn't going to get you any of this, which is money, which is what we're here for. So, you know, I always ask myself when I see that I'm very busy, like what is my next deal coming from? Like who is the most likely person to get something under contract to be ready to list their house right now? And I kind of chase that more because it can be disheartening to be busy. And sometimes we are. It feels like you're sort of spinning your wheels and, you know, I've called this person now. It was a for rent by owner, landlord, and I've been talking to them for 10 months. And now every single time I text, they just don't respond. They've ghosted me. And my rule is, unless I get a stop, remove me from your list, I continue. And then it's weird, you know, that 10th month, they call you and they're like, I'm ready to list my house. And you're like, oh my gosh, I totally thought I was annoying them. But you know, I'm not annoying. I try to make it so that it's not nagging them or anything, but stick with it. So that's my rule.
Even though they don't pick up, you still call them once.
Yeah, I call or text. My thing is I've noticed that I get much more response from texting. So I text and I use emojis. It's always a hi with a smiley face first. Because everybody's in a good mood when you see that, right? So
do you do the autos dial out, the system dialer, or you do it manually?
So when I do my cold calls, I have a dialer. But when I text, I do it, it's personal.
Who is your dialer?
I use Vulcan.
Vulcan. So that call, can I ask you how many calls you say you average a day?
So my goal for me is 160 a week.
Okay.
But when I got started, I did not have a dialer. So Eric Akbar had said it was spring of 2020, COVID had just hit. And he said, call for rent by owners. Any landlord, and it's true, is just one vacancy away from being like, I want to sell this house. So I did. I called them, and some of those were very long conversations in terms of, yes, maybe we spent 20 minutes on the phone the first time, but I spoke to them for 9-10 months before they ever said, yes, I want to sell this house.
Mm.
The thing you also have to know about investors is that most investors own more than one property. And every investor has at least one house they don't like. So I'm going to give you my script for right now is, you know, you have a dog in that portfolio and now's the time to sell it because the property values are so high. Get rid of the ones you don't absolutely love and buy something else. Because we all do. There are houses that for whatever reason we don't like. We don't want to own them. They're a little too far from our house. Everything, everything else is over here. Every other home I own is a single family rental. This one's the only duplex. Whatever the story is, they all have one. And so it's an easy way to kind of put that bug in their ear of, you're right, there's that one house I don't like. Maybe I should sell it now. I wonder how much it's worth. So accountability, I have an accountability partner, it's my coach, and he knows what my goals are, and every single day I text my activities. I had this many dials, this many phone calls with follow-ups, this many database calls, this many this many that. I have had this many closings. Wouldn't that be nice in a day? I had 8 closings. I had 15 closings today. And I scheduled a listing appointment, those types of things. And it kind of keeps it in my mind, especially my activities. Because if there are a few days where I didn't get to something, he's gonna say something. Like, okay, things happen to everybody, but you need to get back to it if you want to continue having a healthy business. And then I keep track. I have a board. I have a 12-week year whiteboard in my office at home. I'll show you that on the next slide. And I keep track of all of these things. What were my goals? How far am I? If I have a closing, I have to tell them, I'm at number 38 of 52. So I always know that I need to get to 52. So this is my whiteboard. And the 12-week year, actually, Terry Schmalinsky, I just butchered her name, did a 1-hour class last December on this. And she was saying that we have, the 52 closing goal for the year. And you've got 12 months to do it. First of all, 52 is a huge number to get your head around. So you divide it by 4. And you say, okay, instead of having 52 for the year, I have this many for the quarter. And same thing with my sales, same things with this, same things with my listings. You divide it by 4, and you have 12 weeks to do it. And then you give yourself a week vacation. Because you actually have 30 weeks in a year. So you work 12 weeks, give yourself a week off. And that way, you didn't divide, like, for example, the 52 by 12. And you freaked out because in January you had no closings, which is what happened to me. I had 0 closings in January and I would have freaked. But I'm like, okay, I'm looking at the quarter. And I had 1 closing at the end of February. So, but it kind of keeps you in perspective. It gives you a little play with your numbers so that you're not too hard on yourself, but also so that you're not getting to October and you're like, oh, I have 18 of my 52 closings. I better hurry up, because that doesn't work either.
Were they pending though? They was like pending.
I did have pending in February. I got a bunch of properties under contract in like a week.
Right.
Lost my mind. Lost my paperwork. I did not know which way was up. It was so bad. It was bad. But I got it done. This box here in the bottom, what is your 15th protocol? That actually came from Danielle. I'd never heard that before. I don't know if you guys have ever heard it.
What did you say, 15th protocol?
Protocol, yes. What happens if on the 15th of the month you realize, I haven't gone on a listing appointment yet. I haven't scheduled any listing appointments yet. I haven't written any offers yet. What do you do so that you don't miss your numbers? Do you double down on the calls that you make? Do you start door knocking? Are you going to, host open houses for other people? Like, what do you do if halfway through your month, you're like, I'm not hitting my goals for the month? You need to have a plan. And you need to be committed to that plan. And we all have them. Like, we all have, months where we have a bunch of closings and then others where we have nothing. And so we need to kind of buckle down. And again, that is planned. It doesn't come by accidents. So, but that term I had never heard of. And that came, like I said, from Danielle. If you want to keep track of where you are, this is on mykw.kw.com. If you log into that, and again, I can just send you this, there's a way to go through the reports, and it will tell you how much you sold year to date in terms of units closed, your volume, your gross commission income. And then if you do this, if you're here for multiple years, then you can see your multi-year trends as well. And that's kind of fun, especially when you're chasing someone and it's somebody that I would not recommend, like, I would not say I'm going to go chase Ryan Young.
Okay.
That would be ridiculous. I'm nowhere near close enough that it would be motivational. So you have to chase somebody who's kind of close to you, right? A little bit ahead of you. That's who you pick when you chase. And then hopefully, you know, they sort of pull you forward because you're competing with them, but you also kind of push them along because they know that it's like, you know, you always run faster when somebody's running after you, right? At least I did. And then when you're, you know, being accountable, be honest. Like, ask yourself, am I consistently hitting my daily targets? Am I, you know, calling the people I'm supposed to be calling? If the answer is no, like, you don't need to beat yourself up. You don't have to feel discouraged, although sometimes we do. But figure out why not. Like, why am I not making those calls? Why am I not? I am making my calls. Why am I not closing? Why am I not setting appointments? Why am I going on appointments and I haven't gotten one listing? And you know, sometimes 90% of the time it's from scripts. So if you can say, okay, I'm going on the listing appointments, you know that between the time you talk to them, you can get yourself to their house. It's what happens at their house. Well, that's fine. Work on that. You know, and if you don't know how to work on that, be like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. There are plenty of people in the office, coaches, other successful people that you can just sit with and be like, hey, would you mind if I shadowed you? Well, how do you do it? What do you prepare? Ask them. They'll be more than happy to help you. Like, this is one of the things I love about this office is how generous everybody is with information.
That that listing presentation that Colleen listed on Monday was awesome. And they recorded it, so if you weren't here,
right?
but it was really point on. It was really good.
And if your answer is yes, I have been hitting my daily targets, congratulate yourself and keep at it. I have found that I just bounce back and forth. I'd love to say that I got here and stayed there. That is not what happened. And then, like this week, I have not been doing my calls. Emmanuel's been working with me, so I've been training him, and that's totally fine. But I know that next week it'll be harder for me to get back on the phone because I haven't done it. I think it's Kobe Socher who said that when he didn't want to make his calls, he just imagined a bag of money on his desk. And he's like, if I make these calls, I get that bag of money. Something along those lines. But yeah, don't discourage if you've hit things and you've hit your stride and all of a sudden it kind of falls apart. I think that from my experience, I think that's pretty normal.
So I had to need to ask you, like, you make your goal to make about 40 calls a day, something like that. Out of those 40, would you at least get how many appointments or?
Sometimes I'll make 40 calls in a day, nobody picks up.
Nobody picks up, yeah. So then when they don't pick up, do you try to text them or?
I do. I text. I say, hey, I was just calling you, and then I'll just say why. And then I usually get more responses from the text. It's more time consuming, but this is what I ask myself. I just spent an hour on the phone, nobody picked up. So that's a complete waste of an hour, or I could waste another half hour texting and actually get a response, right?
It's
So sometimes I'm
gonna
like, oh, I don't want to do this. And I'm like, so I really wanted to have wasted that hour. So, and sometimes I really don't want to do it, but I do it.
your why has to be big.
Yes. And I just, I'm very big about not wasting my time. So if I've already committed a certain amount of time and I'm like, if I stop now, then all of that is wasted. The cost of my dialer is wasted. Because what's the point of calling people and not having any business come out of it?
Does Vulcan give you the leads in certain zip code areas?
What I do is I put in an address. And I'll just say, for example, people who have had their homes for over 6 years.
Okay,
And then they just kind of douse through. And then sometimes you get their kids. They're like, it's my mom's house. I'm like, oh, so I guess you can't sell it, huh? And they're like, no. I'm like, I bet your mom would be happy if you sold it from underneath her. And you get them laughing, be like, look, I don't know if she's looking to sell now or not, but do you mind if I text you my business card? And, if and when she ever gets to that point, feel free to give me a call. And even if it's just, hey, I wonder how much it's worth, I'd be happy to answer that question. And I have my business card screenshot and I just send it to them.
It's interesting.
Do you call them maybe once a quarter, just friendly reminder?
It depends on the people. If it's just like their kid, usually I don't. But it doesn't hurt. They can always say no. Like you've got the phone number, you've made the connection, so why not? And then, usually like the third or fourth text in, I usually say, and if you know anybody else who's looking to buy, sell, or invest, here's my business card again. Feel free to pass it along. I'd be happy to help them as well. I haven't had a referral from somebody I didn't know. But I don't know, maybe one day I did, and it's just a sentence I added. So it didn't cost me anything. I kind of mentioned this earlier, we can be very busy and not close anything. So you always want to close. That is getting a listing agreement signed, getting a buyer's agency agreement signed, getting an offer accepted. That is your aim. It's so easy to think that, we're being productive because we're being busy. And the reason it's important to make the distinction is that if you are just being busy and you're not being productive, something is going wrong. And if you don't pay attention to that, then you won't have an opportunity, or at least not as soon, to fix it and to become productive. All right, so that was the first thing, which is, but the second one is mastering your schedule, time blocking. And this is where little Sophie comes back alive and well and messes with my business. So believe it or not, the first thing you're supposed to do with your calendar is schedule your time off. Block it out on your Google Calendar. That includes like your vacation, your personal time. If you work out and you have a schedule, you take classes or whatever it is, you do it. You go to church, you put it in there. That is your time off. There's plenty of time during the week to work around it. And it's very important to you and to your mental health and to having, businesses worth owning and lives worth living, that you do that. The second thing would be your family and friends. Put in your kids' games, events that are important to you, your charity work, if you volunteer somewhere, put that in and then put in the work. And with work, it's not just your lead generation, the appointments you're going to go on, the showings, all of your contract to close work, paperwork, marketing that we do, but also training and education. Put that in there. Always try to have something on the calendar, on a regular basis, where you're getting different perspectives, where you're learning something new. This is from my coach, protect your morning, because I kept not doing my lead generation because I would have an inspection, I would have an appraisal, and I would have a showing, and I would have this, and I would have that. And he was like, Sophie, you're not going to have any new business, which means you're not going to have any business at all once these people close if you don't protect your morning. So this is, I'm really not that great at time blocking. Like some people are like, okay, from 8 to 8:15, I do this. From 8:15 to 8:45, I answer emails. From 8:45, I cannot work like that. Half the time, I don't know what time it is. So if I was so regimented, it just would go by the wayside. So for me, what has worked is have a loose schedule. In the morning, I get up. I'm a morning person, so that's easier for me. I review my appointment schedule. I know, like, okay, where do I need to be when? And what are my goals for the day? I follow up on emails that came through, and then I try to block out between 9 and 11. That is one of my blocks. My lead generation. That can be cold calling. That can be Facebook ads, marketing, anything that will bring me business. That's from 9 to 11 in the morning. And then I go back to paperwork stuff, writing offers, transaction coordination. And in the afternoon, I try to have my showings and my appointments, inspections and so on. And so if I'm really, really busy, sometimes I will just ask, can anybody sit an inspection for me? And I pay them for their time. And that works. Sometimes I have, people who need to see properties, they can only do it in the morning, and I'll put in the Facebook group, hey, can anybody show these properties? I'll compensate you for your time. But I found that protecting my morning is worth the money I spend here and there for somebody to, sit at an inspection or something else for me. That's sort of what has worked. And then in the afternoon, like I say, I have my listing appointments blocked off, showings, inspections, all those things that I would attend. Obviously, listing appointments, I wouldn't have anybody else attend. That's not something I would hand off to anyone. And then I have my end of the day routine. I text my numbers to my coach, and then I prepare my day for a successful tomorrow. You would think that that means organizing my desk. We're back to that. I'm not organized, but in theory, that's what I should do. I should organize my desk, make sure everything's straightened up and ready for tomorrow. I think about it in the morning. I should have done that yesterday.
So your day ends approximately what time?
So I try to end my day at dinner time. And sometimes that's like 6:30 or 7. You're much more likely to get a response from me as an email like 5 o'clock in the morning than 10 o'clock at night. I cannot function at the end of the day. And so that's how it is for me. I mean, sometimes I have to do certain things and it's 7:30, but I try to have, like, when I make dinner, that's the end of my day. And like I say, it's not always the exact same time to make dinner because my daughter has sports and so on, but that's my,
Kids you have?
I have one. 16. This is from Pivot. Structure your day for success. Start your day. So they say to create a productivity specific environment. Start your day with gratitude. Even when we're struggling, we always have something to be grateful for, and that sets your mindset so much differently than if you don't. And then decide who you will show up as today. Like, really think about, who am I in this job? And kind of center yourself on that. And then do your day. They say to set your alarm and wake up at the same time every day. Don't just start work when you wake up. Decide when you wake up and start work. Start working at the same time every single day. Schedule your daily money producing activities on your Google Calendar. Some people will tell you to put that little, money sign next to those. Keep in mind, like, this is where my money comes from. And then stick to your schedule and routines. And then at the end of the day, create an end of the day wrap up routine. Still working on it. Organize your workspace. Same as number one. Prepare your call list for tomorrow. I'm good at that. That I always know. Review what you have achieved and report to your accountability partner. And it doesn't have to be a coach, it could be a friend, whoever you're chasing, at some point, or somebody else. And then stick to your scheduled end of work time. You will always have more work to do. You cannot run yourself into the ground, which is why you have an end of the work and tomorrow you can get to it.
Okay.
If you're productive, and you worked, that's it. You're done. That'll wait for tomorrow. And think about it. If like heart surgeons can be done at 8 o'clock and they save lives, or 5 o'clock or whatever time, and not work on the weekends, we can also do the same thing within reason. I know that some heart surgeons have to go in because there's an emergency. Well, same thing here. They don't work 24/7.
But if you have a client that calls you out after your time that you cut off.
My phone is off. My phone is off.
You control that, not them, right?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Because I have a lot of investor clients. Some are in Israel, some will be in California, and they're not always doing the math that, oh, it's 2:45 in the morning where Sophie is. I turn my phone off. I am done.
That's sweet, okay.
Mhm. So be realistic when you make your schedule. Like, everybody's life has some kind of hurdles, limitations because of family life, other businesses, medical needs, other work. If you have, a part-time career or full-time career other than being a realtor, you have limitations and hurdles because of those. For me, I had my goals. I had my daily goals, my weekly goals. Actually, I had my weekly goals. I divided them by 5 days. And then because I do have investment properties and I do a lot of rehab work, I realized that so often my investment business would just create a complete tornado in my life. Something happened, like, I don't know, we got a flood in the basement. Whatever it is, you've got to drop what you're doing and resolve it. But it was happening on a pretty regular basis. And finally, and each time I'm texting, oh, I couldn't get to it today because of my investment business. I had these issues. And finally I decided, well, that's part of my life. So instead of having a 5-day week for real estate, I have a 4-day week. So whatever I need to do for my week, I have to get it done in 4 days. So my numbers had been, I had to make 150 calls for the week, which was 30 a day. And so I'm like, well, I divide that by 4. It's hard to divide 150 by 4, so I just decided just to do 40 a day. And so that's why I ended up with 160. And then if I get to Friday and nothing has, tornadoed my week, hey, I get like half a day off, which is kind of awesome, and I do take it. So, but that's, kind of, everybody has, some people have newborn babies, they, family, all of that. Just kind of think about what your life presents in terms of hurdles and limitations, and plan accordingly. Last one, feed your pipeline every day. Your pipeline is your business. So there are 3 ways to feed your pipeline every day: database, prospecting, and marketing and advertising. So your database is doing your daily 10-4, identifying leads. Your database are all the people you have already met. They know you, they trust you, they like you. They say that for every 100 people you have in your database who know, trust, and like you, you should get 6 closings in a year and 6 referrals. That's 12 closings out of 100 people, and it's free. You just have to stay in touch with them. And if you look on Command, they have smart plans. They have the 36 touch smart plan. They're a great way to stay in touch with them and to stay top of mind.
How many did you say?
100, you get 6. Yeah,
Six
I
referrals.
actually have another chart that's coming up. with
100
that.
people, you get 6.
Direct and 6 referrals. That's like the natural average. Some people obviously have more, some people less. But this is, they say that this is a vast generator of business and it's free. So I'm not good at doing this. I would rather cold call people than call people I know. I feel like I'm bugging them. But you're not bugging them, you're helping them, because think about it. If you had to buy a house or sell a house, and it's a big deal, right? Don't you want to do it with someone you trust and somebody you like and somebody you know cares about you? And I know I'm saying this and at the same time saying, I still cringe thinking about it, but they're both true. It's something that I need to do because I know the value, and it's for some reason my personality is difficult for me to do that. So I've actually 2 months ago committed to calling.
Do you know that my entire business is referral?
Wow,
It's
that's
people I know and not anybody I don't know.
What?
That's
Because
beautiful.
I don't want to call people I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it with people I don't know.
They
I don't
say,
want to go into a strange house with somebody I've never met before. I
and
just,
see, they say that if you do what you do, if you really work your database, you really shouldn't have to do anything else. Like most people know enough people that it will support their business year after year after year.
That's sweet.
I know.
I had a lady, she was a loan officer, so she get a lot of her referrals that way too.
Oh, good.
like right
yeah.
now I have 4 pending. 2 of them were referral and 2, it's a buy and sell, and it's a house that's 8 houses away from mine, so it's technically a neighbor
Nice.
who goes to church with me and, you know, my same church and stuff like that. So,
So you need to talk to her, ask her how
Yeah.
she does it.
I would say you get along. If people are more of your friends, because my friends, the people I know, they're not looking to buy.
Uh-huh.
But they're
But
like
they may know
either
people who
renting
are-
or something.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
they
they may
could be
know someone who
renting, but-
is looking to buy.
Yeah.
Everyone's
maybe their
always looking to
parents.
buy.
You know, I know
There are
that younger
circumstances.
people who get into the business and they may not be, and their friends may not be ready to buy, but their parents might, or their parents might be selling, or people at church might be, or their old job. You know, people at school, if you had good relationships with certain people at school, there's one Maggie in the Rocky River office. She used to be a teacher, and she gets almost all her business because of all the parents she used to know and other teachers.
And
That's sweet.
And, you know, like,
She's like, Facebook, Sophie, get on Facebook.
I have 2 adult children, and I have sold to friends of theirs and I'm working with friends of theirs now, you know. I, like my niche that I think for me, based on my personality, I just enjoy first-time home buyers. And so that's probably like the motherly thing in me.
Mhm.
So
It is
I-
fun when they
I
get
have
their
a-
first keys,
yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, very sweet. Prospecting, that's basically, as I put the bow and arrow, you are looking for them, you're hunting them down. And that uses your time. It is a cold calling. It is attending hosting open houses, even for other agents. But you're using your time to go out there and find potential clients. And then you have marketing and advertising. It's basically using money to attract people to you. Very expensive and probably not as effective as these two because they've never met you. Whereas here, they may not have met you through cold calling, but at least they've heard your voice on the phone. Whereas a Facebook ad, it's, you know, swipe, right? Or whatever it is. I'm on Facebook a lot. I didn't want to put in here opportunity time because it's unique. Opportunity time, they're calling you because the Keller Williams names is attracting them to this office, but it doesn't cost you any money. You just have to answer the phone. So
never
it
done that
kind of
either.
sits between these two
That's
because
good.
it's, you know, so definitely recommend that. And then daily 10-4, we're talking about the 4 activities you should do 10 times a day. Add at least 10 people, 10 contacts to your database every single day. Call 10 people a day, and this is minimum. Send 10 handwritten notes a day. And that's, people in your database. Again, you're gonna call 10 people and you're going to send 10 notes. And it could be for Halloween or something, just whatever you want. And then preview 10 homes per week. And that's just so you become the neighborhood expert. When people are like, oh, I was calling about this house or my neighbor's house. And, oh yeah, I've been in that house. I know exactly what it looks like. You sound like and look like the expert and you know what you're talking about. And then you can compare, well, that house was different from yours because blah, blah, blah.
So when you're previewing houses, is there like a certain neighborhood you like to focus on? Because
Yeah, I mean, you should, you can't be an expert of everything. So decide where you want to focus your time and energy. And it doesn't have to be where you live. It can be where you live, but it doesn't have to be. I'm targeting different new neighborhoods. I started in Cleveland Heights because I invested in Cleveland Heights and Euclid. And so I knew those markets really well. But if I wanted to go after the investor market, who's not an investor, I would go to Lakewood and I would preview duplexes and look at the sheets and be like, okay, this is what a house like this sells for. This is what they rent for. I would look on Zillow rent, for rent ads and be like, okay, in this neighborhood, and if you're doing investors, you also need to know the rental market. In this neighborhood, these apartments are renting for a lot more than this landlord is renting them for. So there's really an opportunity for a lot of the upside for whoever buys it, and just start learning that business. If you want to do new construction, tour those places. If you want to focus on condos, do condos. If you want to focus on downtown, do that. But just focus, really focus. And then once you really feel like you know that neighborhood or that market well, pick another one. And then you can start building that way. And then you're going to have somebody that you help who's like, well, I know somebody in Mentor. You haven't been to Mentor, but the answer is yes, I can help them. And then it's Mentor. So your database is your business. And this is, Danielle told me this. For every 100 contacts you have, you will get 6 direct clients and 6 referrals. So if you have 500, you put the 500 there times 6%, and you will end up with 30.
That should get your referrals.
And same thing with the referrals. So you get 6 direct pieces of business, 6 referrals from every 100 people in your database. And other agents in your database don't count. I know Command automatically puts it in there. That doesn't count. So yes, because it's so cheap and it's basically, it provides you so many clients, this should be your #1 priority. Everything else, number 2 and number 3, just pick what you're good at. Whether it's, whatever that is, cold calling, Facebook ads, open houses. I don't know if you guys have heard of DTD2. It's to do the database times 2. And for you tag your database with the letters, and each day there will be 2 letters. And then it'll tell you, like this week, we are September 20th. We were doing the I's and Q's. These are everybody whose last name starts with an I or Q, you're calling them in your database. And everybody whose last name is a C, you send them a text. And then next week is the 27th, we're doing Y and Z's for calling and F for texting. So what I do is I merge the IQYZ And I give myself a week off. So I have 4 weeks off a year from calling. Because nobody wants to call every single day, all year round. And this is also available. They'll do another one. This is for 2021, but they'll have one for 2022, 2023. And that way you constantly stay in contact and you know who to call. And my rule is, if I haven't finished my contacts for the week, I cannot do anything on Friday. So if we're going out with friends or, you know, like whatever, I cannot do it until I am done with my database calls and texts. I'm always done with those. It's amazing. Other stuff, not so much, but that's like a hard rule for me. So best advice, work your database and follow up. I mean, that is one lesson I learned in 2020 is just the silence. Like if you just ignore the silence and you keep at it, so many people will eventually be like, hey, yes, now I'm ready. I had this one guy, I had put him on HomeBot. It's a free website. And let's say, you know, I can put my address on there, and once a month, you need their home address and their email address. It'll send them an email telling them your property value based on the comps has gone up or down this much, blah, 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 blah. And I had put him on there from a cold call and totally forgot about him. Fell through the cracks, and he called me one day, probably like 8, 9 months later, you know, saying that he'd been receiving my emails. I'm like, I'm sending this guy emails on my computer. I'm like, who is this person? And then I realized he was talking about HomeBot, but HomeBot had my name, and he was assuming I was emailing him every month. But I'm closing on a house today because of him, because of HomeBot. So, you know, like these little drip things.
HOMBOX, is that what you said?
HomeBot, like a robot, but it's HomeBot.
Okay.
Mhm.
What does it do? It sends out emails for you?
It'll send one email a month to a homeowner to tell them what their property value, it has moved. So you can do it, it'll be like, okay, you know, and it's obviously based on comps, so it's not an exact property value, but the first email will be like, your property's worth $100,000. And then a month from now, it'll be like, oh, your property went down 0.7%, or your property went up 1.1% in the last month. It's now worth this. And they can put in their own information, like when they bought it, what their mortgage is, what their rate is. And then sometimes, you know, you can go through that and be like, oh my goodness, this person, because you get all that information, this person has a mortgage of 7%.
That's sweet.
You know, like, let me call them and be like, hey, by the way, did you realize that the rents are low and you could save hundreds of dollars every single month? Like, just imagine how happy that person would be if you told them that, right?
And so it's branded with your information,
Mhm.
and you pay for it?
You did.
I mean, and there's one where you can pay $25 a month for thousands and thousands of people.
So go to www.
And then you get an email back with the person's information? So
It's
how do
just-
you know? How do you know that they've received this information?
because it's on there, it'll be like, oh, we sent out 103 emails this month. 56 of them were open, and 23 of them actually looked at their property value.
Wow.
And then, you know, like that guy, I saw that in 1 week, he opened his property value 14 times.
What?
So what does that tell me?
He was really
He's really
interested.
interested.
And you go to that website, HomeBot, and find out more about it,
Yeah, you can go to HomeBot, you'll see.
and then you can, okay.
Yeah. If you need anything, just, you know, text me.
Right.
Home,
'cause I had an idea too.
HOMEBOT.
That's sweet.
Then I have to meet strangers.
Yes, exactly. So anyway,
Did you have people that, so when you cold call, you put them into the system?
I do. I mean, I usually, you know, sometimes I ask, sometimes I just put them in, because you need their email address, right? So I'll tell them, hey, you may not be ready to sell, but there's this program called HomeBot. It's totally independent. They do not take your phone number. They only send you one email per month. It'll, you know, let you know how the property values in your neighborhood are going. And it's just kind of a nice thing to know, like, oh, my property values are continuing to go up, and just a tidbit of information for you. Some people will say no, thank you. Some people will say yes. Like my database, I've just, anybody who is a client of mine who's closed with me, when I send them the final emails with different things like and asking for a review, I'll say, by the way, I've set you up on HomeBond. I do not ask for the permission. I think sometimes it's worth asking for forgiveness instead of permission. That falls
This is
under-
already closed, so.
Yes, exactly. But sometimes I'm like, you know, it's just an email. They can always just say delete, you know, unsubscribe me. So,
They gonna suit what I plan on doing, you know, letting people know in the area, the home sold for this amount,
mhm,
and then you can send their home box.
mhm.
That's helping out.
So basically back as a summary, if you track your big goals, time block, feed your database, it will lead to increased sales. That's it. Any questions?
What's your phone number?
216-849-8032. You're welcome. Any other questions?
That was good.
Please don't send me any paperwork. Promise I'll use it.
Oh, I have to give you my email address too.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. So let me go back to the beginning because I have an email address up here. If you guys want to
I wrote it
shoot
down
me
at the
an
very beginning.
email and ask for the PowerPoint presentation. It's my name basically, sophie.boehlen@kw.com. And I'd be happy to share the presentation with you so you have the information on hand. All right, well, if no other questions, thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. I hope you found it helpful.